Oh, Jacqui.
Hello.
Yes, it's good to have you here once again.
Yeah, sorry to keep you waiting. I was yeah, technical difficulties.
It's all right. And I would love to tell my viewers that last time we met, I had such a whale of time doing this podcast with you, and you are such a vivacious person. I felt like I have known you for a longer, years and years. We have known each other. So that was kind of
Oh, thank you.
feeling that I got. And today
Yeah, me too.
we're gonna talk about this thing right here.
Yes. This thing.
Yes, right here. Uh, Earlier, Jackie, I thought that you cut corners. So when it comes to the cover of it, I thought like the cover is quite basic. But when I dig deeper into your book, the novel, I read reviews about your book, and then I realized that now it makes sense, writer and the kind of cover that you've gone with that. So yeah,
Yeah. Although there's a story about the cover, which I don't know. I can't remember if I said this last time, but
no,
you
you
know,
didn't.
you say things to people. So I had a friend. Oh, this is dramatic gossip. I had a friend who was he was doing illustrations for my book. Really kindly, and we'd sort of he knew it was probably never going to be published, and that if it was published, it wouldn't get much, wouldn't get much money. But I'd agreed with him that I'd split the profits or, the royalties 50-50, which is, not what illustrators normally get, but, I knew it wasn't going to be much money, so I wanted to give him as much as I could. Anyway, so we had another cover with one of his illustrations on it. And then literally probably maybe a few weeks, maybe a month before it was going to be launched, he suddenly demands 8 grand.
Okay.
And so we went, sorry, we can't. So that in a way, it's interesting that you noticed that the cover was, I mean, I think, I think the designer did really well because he basically had to really quickly redesign it, really, really quickly. Um, and, I think he did a really good job. I just missed the old cover, but, unfortunately we didn't have anywhere near that much. Well, I say he demanded that much money. He wanted to be paid, and he was saying, "This is how much I get paid per illustration." And if you did the maths, that was kind of what equivalent became. So yeah, but it's what it is. I mean, I think also I noticed that I don't know, it probably doesn't look so much on the digital version, but the colours are less vibrant in the real book.
Yeah.
But it's actually for a good reason because my publisher was just like a small, a local publisher, an independent publisher.
Hmm.
Um, but he's very concerned about being environmentally friendly. So his books are printed with kind of ink that's environmentally friendly and on sort of super recycled paper and that kind of thing.
Story
I'm trying to
Machine,
think.
right? That's your publisher.
Story Machine, yeah, Story
Yeah.
Machine, yes. And so that's okay. We are now so Story Machine seeks to have a net positive social and environmental impact. Um, that means the environment and people's lives are actually better off for every book we print. So that's their aim. So that's because again, sometimes it gets a little ratty quite easily, but
Hmm.
I'm proud of that. I think that's important. I think it's a nice
Yeah.
thing to have done the thing. So yeah.
Earlier, I didn't know much about the novel, but then I read a lot of reviews given by your readers, and even the reviews were really top notch. Like they were praising your novel in a very unique way, and they were not shying away when it comes to the praise of your novel. So, how did you come up with this idea that I want to write this particular thing, Gothic, right?
Yeah, Gothic Western horror, which is
Yeah.
really weird because I don't watch horror, I don't read horror, I'm terrified of horror. Um, and I mean the Gothicness partly came from the fact that my favorite author is William Faulkner, who's
Okay.
this American author from like the 1930s, and he's um, I mean, particularly just based on his book, The Sound and the Fury. So I mean, I like other of his books, but I love that. So that kind of ambience and kind of setting it in southern United States made sense. Also, I mean, I studied American literature at university, so
Yes. Back in
it
2007, I guess you got graduated from.
yeah, I did an undergrad and then a master's, and yeah, so yeah, and Yes, so that kind of felt right, like to setting it in America. Part of the kind of Western impact, I think when I first came up with the idea, I'd recently been reading what's the word? The hang on. Stephen King, the Dark Tower
Yeah.
series.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so that kind of sort of a Western, but it's not a Western kind of feel. I think kind of came into it from that as well. And then, but I mean, in terms of the initial idea of this, like, you know, wishing on a typewriter to get rid of the memories, of a bad, of a person, of an ex. To be honest, it came from a relationship, or not even a relationship, an almost relationship, unrequited love. Yes, and then I was just like, I want to forget this, and it became, it well, it became a short story at first, but yeah, a short story, then a longer short story, and then, to be honest, I stopped writing it for about 10 years. Partly because it felt like the character didn't have enough motivation, because I guess as I started feeling better, I started going, wow, it's not that big a deal, is it? And it's always difficult because I don't want to give away the ending or anything, but then basically something
Could do that.
happened that
Yeah.
that made me start writing again.
Hmm.
Um and like generally I sort of tend to say that although it sounds very melodramatic, like I think in a way the horror element came partly from the fact that, you know, feelings of heartbreak and also, later as feelings of like loss and grief are horrific. They are horror things. So um I think I was kind of tapping into those emotions, if that makes sense. Sort of, yeah.
Hmm. Makes sense. Yeah, got it. William Faulkner, and you mentioned also the Dark Tower. I guess a movie has also been made on that. Uh,
It has, yeah, yeah. I think my brother and I, one of my brothers, my brother Tom and I went to see it, and we were, I don't know, we didn't like it too much actually, but I think it's always really difficult turning a book into a film, especially when it's a long book, or well, this is obviously a series of books, because you're trying to squeeze in a lot of stuff, a lot of that character building, a lot of the gradual steps that lead to action
yeah.
into what, an hour and a half. And I
Hmm.
I, I think people do very good jobs at doing it, but I sometimes think it's very hard, if not possible. I mean, I love Pride and Prejudice, and I love the BBC five-hour version of it. I saw the Keira Knightley film and I was horrified. I was like, what? In Pride and Prejudice, she hates him at first, and then she falls in love with him gradually. And whereas in the movie, it's like, I hate you. Oh, I love you. The end. And it just doesn't work. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes things need time, I think.
Hmm. And what are some of your favorite William Faulkner books, uh, Jackie?
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, my real favorite is The Sound and the Fury. It's amazing. It's
Sound of
I
the
mean,
Okay.
Faulkner, so it's written in, I think it's five different sections. Each is written from the point of view of a different character. And I'd say it's not quite stream of consciousness, but it's heavily through the eyes of the character. You can hear them speaking, but you can also hear their feelings. You can feel their feelings. Like that's the kind of power of like the stream of consciousness is a
Yeah.
form of writing. Yeah, like I was like,
Yes,
it's
sorry for interruption, but that reminds me
Mhm.
of the novel that I was compelled to study. Clarissa Dalloway. Uh,
Mrs. Dalloway. Yes,
Mrs.
yes,
Dalloway.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. The book's called Mrs. Dalloway, but yeah, that's great. Oh, I love Virginia Woolf. I Yeah, I only came to her fairly recently, and I've been gradually working my way through things. Yes, exactly. That thing where you can really, it's like basically stream of consciousness. The words are, it's not like narrated, it's the sort of brain directly on the page kind of thing. There's different levels of how you can do it. And I just love that feeling of kind of power, emotional power that you kind of get from it. And I remember when I was studying in America, just for a year as part of my degree, and I was doing a creative writing module, and we were given this task of like do imitation of a writer you think's really good. So I obviously imitated William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury because it's amazing. And it was interesting that the teacher, she said, "Well, why did you do this? This form is dead." And I said, "It shouldn't be. It might be, but it shouldn't be, you know." Um, and and it's funny really because I think it's maybe slightly a different way of reading because I think very often we read and we're focused for what's happening, what happens next, what is said, what are the events, what are the little specific bits. Whereas, for example, The Sound of the Fury, I've read 3 times, and I would read it again because I still am not entirely sure what. I mean, I know the gist, but each time I've read it so far, I've still loved it because there's these mysteries, but also it's this feeling. I think it's more in reading something for the emotion you kind of get from that. Um, and that's what I like. Different people like different things. But I've also read, I mean, I've read As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner, which is very good. It's kind of similar to The Sound and Fury, but
Yeah.
I know I have read other books by him, but to be honest, those ones I've kind of forgotten somewhat. Whereas, so it's weird to say he's my favorite author, but he is in that book is the best book in my opinion. It's the best, and I love it so much. But yeah, sorry, that was I just went on about one book. Was I supposed to talk about other books? I can't remember. Was it just favorite other? Yeah. Anyway, that's my favorite. That's my favorite William Faulkner book. Is The Sound of the Fury.
And coming back to your book novel, or the writer, I read one of the reviews given by your readers that she, I guess, yeah, she mentioned her name was there, and she told that usually she doesn't read the book in one sitting, or like sometimes she skips the days when it comes to reading. But your book was so compelling that she read the entire book, and at the end also she was quite satisfied. The ending and everything was really up to the mark, and she was saying a lot of things about your book. So I read a lot of reviews,
Mm.
and I'm really
Yeah,
intrigued.
well, I must confess that a lot of the reviews are by my friends.
Yeah, yeah, I know
So
that.
not all of them, not all of them,
But they have
but
mentioned that they are your relatives, they are your friends.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is it's important for me to kind of make sure that people are, and I hope that people are always honest in their reviews. But I guess if it's a friend, then they're less likely to, say anything negative things, aren't they? So but no, it is really lovely. And certainly like when we were so when you get a book ready, you kind of you send it out to people, and you other writers, and you ask them to write I can't remember what they're called, but the things where people kind of say, oh, get like another author to say this book is the best book
Yeah,
since
yeah, yeah.
sliced bread,
Yes, yes,
for
yes,
example. I
yes.
don't I can't remember what they're called anyway. And yeah, again, the writers were really complimentary, really, really nice. And there's some sort of comparisons that I, bask in, like Philip K. Dick, or what was it? If someone said something on those of if someone crossed Don Quixote with, oh, I can't remember, but um
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So just there's loads of things which I've literally basked in. So if I'm feeling a bit sad, I'll like just read my reviews again. Just
And
just yeah.
Jackie, if you had to make a movie out of it, out of your novel, who do you think would be the right actor and actresses for it?
Do you know what? Like, this is something I've thought about many times because actually, I mean, it's funny because having said, oh, you can't make books out of movies, sorry, movies out of books. Um, I've always felt this would make a good movie, and I'm not normally a very visual person. I don't really have a visual imagination, but this sort of came to me, and it is very visual somehow, and I do feel like it could make a good film and maybe quite interesting. So, but the problem is, I have no idea what the characters look like.
Okay.
I literally, because like I say, I don't have a visual imagination. And like at one point, my publisher said to me, "So what does Danielle look like?" I was like, "Meh, this lady, hair, face." Just kind of, I mean, I suppose in a way with her, I kind of have vague ideas. But so, and I've often thought, because it's always nice to think about, when it turns into a movie, and then I get the Oscars, and then also making sure I go down the red carpet and, probably marry Brad Pitt. You've got to plan it all, right? So I've rehearsed it and I imagine it, and I just, I mean, I'm not very good at actors. I will say, I'm not very good at remembering actors and knowing actors. But certainly in terms of the main character, I feel like I would know him if I saw him.
Okay.
I wonder, maybe that's a bit, I don't know, but I just wonder if the person, all the people who want to be in the film come and sit in front of me, I'll be like, you. Um, I sort of have various times considered that Brad Pitt might be desperate to be in my movie, but he's unfortunately too old to play the main character now. Sorry, Brad. So I think, but he could, I don't know, maybe he could like produce it or something. I might allow that. Just
Yeah.
just yeah, just but I don't know. Sometimes I imagine me being Danielle in it, and obviously in this I somehow magically learn to act. And it's, because in your head when you do things it's always perfect. So yeah, so I would be Danielle, and then I don't know. And then Rafe and all the other characters. But yeah, so really unhelpful answer. Let me know, if anyone has any thoughts of who would be the best actors or actors for it. Yeah.
I was gonna say my favorite actor that would be like Brad Pitt is one of my favorite actors, but Tom Cruise, I guess. But yeah, like you said, it's too old. So I guess same goes with Tom
Yeah.
Cruise as well.
Also too old, sadly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe oh, this is the terrible thing where I'm now like forgetting the names of the characters in my book. Oh, this is terrible. I've had a long train journey, okay? It's been a long journey, a long time. And I've
Yeah, I
had like a week
agree.
of doing like looking after my friend's child. It's very tiring. Children. Not Luke. No, no. Luke is obviously the main character. Oh, there's this not Zeb. Oh, almost there. Martin, right. Martin is quite an old character. So I think Brad could be Martin. There you go.
Okay.
This is like Luke has kind of for a while he's like a kind of cowboy kind of he does this kind of cow herding kind of thing. And there's him, Zeb, and Martin who kind of are the cow herders. Now, it's funny actually, one thing I live in fear of is somebody who actually knows about cowboys and like cow herding and how it actually worked, reading the book and be like, yeah, you got that all wrong. I didn't research it. I just like couldn't be bothered. Like, I mean, I hope that, like I say, having watched American films and having read various books and studied a bit of American history, I hope that maybe I got it right. Certainly so far, nobody's been like, yeah, that would never happen. But I can't guarantee it. So
Mm.
it's sort of yeah. But
A boy, it
but
reminds me of Clint Eastwood, but I guess he's way too old for your character. Clint.
definitely too old. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Hmm.
And what about are there any such kind of novels in the pipeline, Jackie?
There's various things which I'm working on. I mean, obviously, whether I'm lucky enough to get them published, is another matter. There's one novel which I've written a draft of, but I hmm, need to. I mean, I've been trying to send it to people, but no interest so far. So I think I need to redraft it. Like sometimes, well, I like to think never because I like to think I'm perfect. But to be honest, you do need like another point of view, like someone else kind of going, look, this makes no sense, or why does it, and so yeah, this is one I've written which I want to kind of call it Folds. Um and it is I mean it's also I tend to write about depressing things. So a writer writes a novel about a woman who has repressed memories of sexual abuse. And this is what it's about. And then in while writing it, she's kind of drawing on a lot of her own experiences. And she sort of starts going, hang on, this is too easy. There are too many connections. Why is this? And she starts wondering whether that's happened to her and
Oh,
researching. Yeah. And so it's almost like the book leads her to think it's happened. And then she ends up trying to work out who did whatever it was and then kind of making accusations and stalking people. And it all kind of goes a bit bonkers. But it's very interesting. And it's
uh,
yeah. Yeah, and then there's another one which I'm working on, which I kind of bill it as the world's most boring book. Just because it sort of is. But like, because the thing is, for me, it's very important. I get really into an idea, and in this idea, so basically the book in general, it could be really interesting, but I'm not writing it in an interesting way because I would who would want to do that? Basically, the idea of the story is that there's the rich people who rule the world
Mm.
realize there's no way to stop climate change, climate collapse. So what they do is they perfect cryogenesis, freezing yourself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. And they shove themselves in freezers up a mountain with like a cult to look after them while
Oh,
everyone else starves and dies. Um, and so that's the kind of general concept. And then while that's happening, one of the daughters of the rich people finds out what's going on. She tries to stop it, um, but like she goes to the press, nobody believes her, or like it just doesn't. She doesn't succeed. So what she ends up doing is actually she gets scared and goes into the freezers because she's like, well, I'm going to die, so. But she leaves this kind of group behind that's kind of trying to find this mountain to because basically they know that this mountain is where all the tech will be, where because they're hoarding things, that medicines and all of that stuff. And so eventually this group finds the mountain, but like years on, like different generations of people. So what you've got is they send emissaries up to try to persuade the people up the mountain to help. Because they've not these people have loads of weapons. So what they do is they train in like debate and rhetoric and politics and philosophy and morals and all of ethics, all of that stuff. And they try send people up to try and persuade them to help. And generally what happens is the person goes up the mountain and gets shot because they're like,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually one person goes up the mountain and this person doesn't shoot her and they start talking. And so what the book is actually, it's actually told through the point of view of these two characters. And the one up the mountain is recording their conversations. He's recording, and she brings him like sources to because he believes that the rich people were like amazing and that when they're thought out, they'll rule the world brilliantly. So she brings sources to go, no, that's not true. And so it's actually there's a lot of kind of political and philosophical debates like do we need rulers and are rulers good if what should they be given in exchange if we do need them do are people if we educate people will they be all be good or that kind of anyway, sorry, this is a really long ramble, but that's sort of what it's about. And like I say,
Wow.
it's actually written quite dryly because it's from the character point of view of this character who's recording everything, who is kind of one of those maybe sort of stereotypical kind of sciencey, nerdy kind of, just like he's not a writer, he's more of a scientist. So it's more of a report than a book, if you see what I mean. So yes, I maybe should just not have him write the book. But I am because,
This is
why
what
not?
you're working on, right? This is like one of the things that you want to eventually.
Yes, that's that one I've written quite a lot of. I've written about 90, 100,000 words, but it's in a massive mess. It needs fixing. But yeah, it's funny, like I feel like I've sort of written it, but there's probably a lot of gaps and it needs to be cut down. Anyway, yes, that's another one of the things I'm writing. What else? Sometimes I forget. I think those are the two main ones. Um, I don't know, post-apocalyptic thing I was writing for a long time, but I've kind of got bored of it. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so there's mainly those two, I'd say, mainly those
Wow.
two. Yeah. Mm.
As you've been doing a lot of things, I watched, like I again stalked all the things that you were doing. You were into BBC, then yeah, you worked as a teacher, I guess. So yeah, it's really commendable, Jackie. It's
Oh, it's just interesting. It's the way, I think I like variety and I like difference, whereas it's a bit stressful as well, but at the same time it's the best thing for me is this variety and this kind of um whereas some people it's good for them to have the kind of security and the consistency. I feel trapped, so it's better for me to do a bit of this and a bit of this and a bit of this, and yeah. So yeah, I'm doing my journalism qualification at the moment to try and
yeah.
make that official and do a bit more of that. And yeah, I mean I need to find more time to write, but it's so hard. It's so hard to
I was
find
about
time to
to
do
ask you that,
anything.
Jackie, about your journalism diploma. How long will it take
Mm.
to complete that?
Well, they recommend that you do it in a maximum of 2 years. So far, I've been studying it for a year and a quarter and done no modules. Well, no, I think I need to do about 6 modules. I have done a lot of my portfolio, so I've done a lot of that. I've studied all of one module. I just need to take the exam, but I'm just currently being a wuss and not taking the exam. Uh, and I'm halfway through the media law module. But yeah, I'm basically, I don't think I'm going to manage to do it in 2 years.
Mm.
But I'm going to try and do it in three. If they recommend you do it in two because things change, the laws change, so I guess I'll just have to kind of update it and kind of keep track of changes. But unfortunately, when you've got a job and things, you kind of, or several jobs, you've got to keep things keep paying the bills, so it's hard to kind
Yeah,
of, yeah.
I guess. And what about your cat? Is he still there with you?
Madge, yeah, she's downstairs, she's outside. In fact, she I was obviously I was on a holiday for a week and I just got back and she was sat at the top of the stairs kind of going, "Who are you?" I was like, "I'm your owner, remember me?" And she was like, and then eventually she went and came downstairs. So she's forgiven me, I think, but she just slightly forgot me after a week. She wasn't sure who I was. But yeah. In fact, I need to go get her some chicken at some point to make up to her because otherwise she'll be displeased. But
Oh, yeah. I stumbled upon a lot of pictures of you and your cat. So yeah.
yeah, well, actually, you probably are seeing pictures of me and Basil, my previous cat, black and white cat.
Yeah. There was the name that you mentioned, starting with M. That was also there.
Was that also there, Madge? Yeah, Madge is the grey cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's such a lovely cat. I mean, Basil was amazing as well. They were both rescues. Madge was used for breeding and then dumped in a field to die with 7 other cats, and
Mhm.
only 2 of them survived. So it took her like she's getting so much more confident. Like she sits on my lap now and stuff. But when I first got her, she hid in my housemate's workshop for 2.5 months. And then I think it was about 4 months before I could touch her. So it's taken her a long time to feel more confident, but I can stroke her now. She purrs, she sits on my lap. So I'm so pleased how much happier she is. She's getting there. She's getting there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is you, right, Jackie, at the BBC.
Yes. Oh my God, that's an old photo years ago. Yeah, years ago
What
when
you
I
were
was.
doing at this thing? What was your job at BBC?
So at the BBC, I had various at Look East. I had various. So Look East is like regional BBC. So it's kind of it did a show that covered like Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, parts of Herts, Beds and Bucks, so counties in England. And most of the time, to be honest, I did auto cue. So you just twist a knob to make the words go the right speed for the
Okay.
presenters to read.
Got it.
Which is really fun actually. Then I moved on to, or as well as that, I started doing what's called PAing, where you time the news. So you've got lots of stop or in those days, you had lots of stopwatches and count through packages and all of that stuff. Occasionally I did a few things for Radio Norfolk, like sort of interviewing people and doing little clips and packages for their weekend bulletins. I did some strands for so I did some strands for Radio Norfolk, which is where you've got like some pieces on a theme for like a week. So I did a strand on mental well-being. And then after I left and then came back, I did a strand on like the impact of lockdown on people. So kind of people's experiences, different experiences of lockdown.
Wow.
And then at Look East, I sort of started for the last 3 years, as well as doing auto Q and PAing, I was preparing the breakfast handover. So it's kind of writing up news stories from press releases, cutting clips, editing clips, editing pictures. Um, Sorry, there's all this jargon when you're in the, and in fact, we even call them different things. Um, and yeah, and then I did manage to do a few packages. So I interviewed a few people,
Yes.
did some pieces on different things, which is really nice.
Hmm.
I mean, I was supported by my colleagues because I was still new, but loved it. Had great time. I did one on the impact of homelessness sorry, it's of lockdown on homelessness,
What
because
that
I was
really?
mainly this kind of
Yeah.
era when I was doing it, and another one looking at the impact of lockdown on uh, refugees and asylum seekers. So that was interesting, and something on care. And anyway, yeah, really, I really enjoy interviewing people and finding things out and talking to people, and yeah, and hopefully doing stories that raise awareness of important things. And I mean, you don't always do that, but yeah, that's particularly what I'm interested in, sort of.
I watched that the video with the homeless guy. I watched that entire video. That was really educating, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I thank you. I did that after I left. I interviewed actually three people, and we cut them into three. We did really long interviews because this is the thing is so often in news pieces, and it's a soundbite. This person has like 10 seconds and that's it. Literally, when you're doing a 2.5 minute package, most people get 15 seconds each. And I remember doing I think it was someone had done a piece on sort of on people, yeah, my colleague at Look East had done a piece on the impact of the cost of living crisis, and sort of how difficult it was for people. And people were emailing in sort of saying, oh, well, look at that person, but they can afford to have a tattoo and everything. And it made me realize that actually you need to know someone's whole life, and not that they need to justify themselves at all, but just that people aren't soundbites. They have reasons for why they are. Everyone has reasons for why they are who they are. And it sort of feels unfair. It felt unfair to just do these sound bites for these vulnerable people when actually everyone's judging them. So why not? I wanted to give them a chance. So I'm saying this in a really long way, but I wanted to give the opportunity to properly hear what they wanted to say and properly find out about them. Um, and we divided them actually into, I think it was past, present, and future was the general thing. And for example, Cherie's one of the people we interviewed. She was talking about, she was she was really talking about like how she really wanted to set up a charity to help homeless people. And I mean, Eddie was amazing. Like and as we wanted to help him, we tried to, but actually it got stuck in all these charities were sort of working together. But when it gets stuck in admin and it grinds to a halt, and it's like gets stuck in meetings and nothing actually happens. And but he was talking to me about how a lot of people he knew who kind of left prison just ended up going straight back into taking drugs, even if they didn't want to,
Yeah.
because the support wasn't there. Um, and he said, like, one time he met this policeman who was really, really sad because he said, "Look, I've just had to rearrest this guy, and I know that he really wanted to turn his life round, but he came out of prison, had no support, and now I've had to just arrest him again." And it was interesting because we were really the what he was saying was that because there is support offered, so it's things like you might be given a leaflet of these are support services, or but he was saying like actually a lot of prisoners are illiterate, so giving them a leaflet is a waste of time. Or he was saying they do kind of try to arrange meetings. It's saying, okay, you're going to go out, you're going to be released soon, let's have a meeting. But he said, when you've been in jail for so long, all you're thinking about is getting out. You don't want to have that boring meeting kind of thing. Um, and it was really difficult because it was kind of trying to work out, well, what can be, or how can we solve this problem then? And anyway, and in a way I wish we had solved it, but as I mean, maybe it has been solved, but as far as I know, like I say, people started groups, different charities tried to get together, but it just kept, it just kind of ground to a halt, partly because there wasn't enough funding, there wasn't enough time, well, there wasn't any funding. It was people trying to do it, in addition to their extra jobs, which were already over.
Hmm.
Yeah. I still think about it. I still want to, yeah, still wish I could do something about it, but maybe one day I'll have time. Yeah, sorry, there you go. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, really, it was amazing talking to those three people. Really
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Even the kind of the experiences that he shared, it was because of his circumstances that he had to go with. If he was in a wealthy family, his life would be different way. He mentioned that.
Yeah, yeah. It's, I mean, that's the thing as well, as obviously, I don't know all homeless people, but certainly these three people, yeah, what do they all have in common? They had bad childhoods,
Yeah.
you know, and and yeah, it's that thing of, feeling so lucky to have been born in the family I was born in the country I was born in the
Mm.
financial situation I was born in, all of these things. You just go, but I mean, I'm a whinger. I'm like, oh, you wouldn't believe it, but I am. I'm like, I've had to go to work today. It's so annoying. But it's like, oh my God, how lucky I am.
Yeah.
Actually, just really, really
Yes.
lucky. Mm.
All right, Jackie. On that note, I guess uh, one thing that you would like to share about your novel writer that a lot of people don't know about.
One thing they don't know about. Do you know what? One of the things so the chapter numbers are related to the time in the story it happens. So if you imagine a timeline and one is the beginning of the story and 140 or 142 or whatever is the end of the story.
Mm.
So one, two, three, four, five, that's chronological. The chapter numbers are not in order. They,
Okay. All right.
yeah, it
Wow.
goes like, yeah, it goes kind of like, I can't even remember because it changed quite a few times. So let's say it goes like 80, 81, 1, 2, 16, it kind of jumps around. Um, and the reason for that is that the character is so obsessed with what's happening that when you're walking along and you're kind of going forwards, but you're thinking about the past all the time. You're chewing things over. So, I mean, a lot of people, I often say that, but one thing I don't say is that I kind of, always have a little grin on my face because one of the chapters, I can't quite remember the numbers, but let's say it's something like 105 to 116. That's the chapter title because it's, like in films when you have a montage, it's like the training montage where like the person learns to box or whatever. This is a stuff montage. It's just like time passes, a few things happen. It's not that important. It's a summary, it's a montage. And I just kind of, I don't know why, it just makes me grin. I'm like, montage. So there you go. That's my little Easter egg about the book. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Paul. I guess with that note, Jackie, let's call it today for today. And again, this was really a pleasure of mine having this conversation with you. And I'm soon looking forward to your next novel, so we can make a podcast about that. And
One day, one day. Well, thank you so much for taking an interest in it. It's just always great chatting to you. So thank you. Thank you.
take care, Jackie, and keep in touch. Bye.
Will do. Bye.